Going on, everyone? Thank you so much for joining me today for episode number 24 of the Car 5 podcast. I'm your host, Joshua, and for today's episode, what we're going to be talking about is how Mercedes-Benz and AMG have already taken, in my opinion, one of the most perfect cars, the GTR, and made it even just a little bit more fun. As usual, everyone, let's go ahead and dive right into it. So what is all the buzz about and what's going on with this GTR Roadster? Well, like I had just said, Mercedes-Benz and AMG took their already perfect GTR and chopped the roof off. Ironically, they did it around the same time McLaren decided to do the same thing with their 720S, and Lamborghini decided to do it with their Huracan Evo, thus giving us, all of us wonderful car enthusiasts, two more spiders to enjoy. Now, as much as I would love to take time to talk about all three of those vehicles, we're just going to hone in and focus on the AMG GTR right now. So, one of the big things to talk about, and that's pretty much the whole reason of this episode, what's the difference between the GTR Coupe and the GTR? Something absolutely astonishing. The only difference that I've been able to find, and unless anybody else has any more information, drop in the comments for me, please, is a 1 mile per hour difference in terms of top speed. That's it. That is a huge deal, because oftentimes what you'll see is when automotive manufacturers will create a roadster or a convertible version of their cars, you're going to sacrifice some top speed, some 0 to 60, because the car is, going through a whole bunch of things. It's going to be a little bit heavier, you're going to have more moving parts, more wires, more nets, convertible top, blah, 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 a whole bunch of other stuff. Mercedes-Benz and AMG have apparently cracked the code to roughly keep performance and everything exactly the same, minus a 1 mile per hour top speed difference. That's absolutely huge. Because we're talking about performance, let's go ahead and take an additional look at some of those figures. So it's going to have the same 4-liter twin turbocharged V8 that's in the GTR Coupe, the Roadster will. Meaning it's going to have 577 horsepower and 516 foot-pounds of torque. That's going to give you a 0 to 60 time of 3.5 seconds and a top speed of 197 miles per hour. You're also going to have the same dual clutch 7-speed automatic transmission from the AMG GTR. Now, those power figures may not seem that big of a deal or that impressive compared to what we're used to seeing nowadays. Everything's 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds, and going over 200 miles an hour. Hear me out about this AMG, because it's not what you might think it is. The standard AMG GTR non-convertible normal coupe has a Nürburgring time of 7 minutes and 10 seconds. The McLaren 720S has a Nürburgring time of 7 minutes and 8 seconds. Roughly, correct me if I'm wrong, $100,000 more. And both of these cars came out with the Roadster versions at the same exact time. That really gives you something to think about. Numbers aren't always what they seem on paper in regards to real life performance. I am honestly a huge believer in that AMG cars are some of the most perfectly built and well-engineered vehicles out there, which I feel like I'm not the only one. I feel like many of you guys might agree with me on the same thing, is that a lot of people consider them to be some of the most ultimate daily drivers. Here's why. In an AMG car, not only can you have all the monstrous and earthquake-sounding performance that you'll desire, but they're also so comfortable. You can have all the luxuries, all the amenities you want. And you're clearly not sacrificing anything in regards to performance, as we just learned in regards to Nürburgring lap times. So it really gives you something to think about. And the saddest thing about this whole episode, puts a smile on my face, is that only 750 of these Roadsters are going to be produced. So if you are a very lucky individual that has the opportunity to get your hands on one, absolutely do so, and send me an email, info@car5podcast.com, or drop something in the comments. I want to check that out and I want to see it. And ladies and gentlemen, that actually is going to conclude episode number 24 for us today. Slight differences between the, or very slight differences, if none really, between the AMG GTR and the GTR Roadster. And it really gives you something to think about when you decide to purchase your next Roadster or supercar. Consider this AMG because, you know, it's significantly cheaper than many other cars out there. And as we recently learned from the performance, it hangs up there with the more expensive cars. Now, don't forget to follow Car 5 Podcast on Instagram, which is at the Car 5 Podcast. Like on Facebook, which is at the Car 5 Podcast. And unless you're listening onto YouTube and watching now on YouTube, if you're not, go ahead and check out our YouTube channel, which is the Car 5 Podcast. And don't forget to tune in April 22nd for episode number 25, in which we're going to be talking about another Roadster that just came out, and that is the Lamborghini Aventador SVJ Roadster. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and please remember to drive safe. Have a great evening.